It's everyone's favorite hand stick grenade, the incendiary grenade, Morgana. But what if it had overclocks? Not that it's going to get them, but I'm not here to do anything like that. I'm here to expand the horizons of science with dumb ideas, such as ignition gate. Basically, what if you could cook the grenade that cooks? That's the idea. Incendiary grenade now has a cookable fuse. What the hell does that mean? So you'd imagine it works something like the HE grenade, and yes, it absolutely would, but then you think to yourself, how would that work with the incendiary grenade? Given that it detonates on impact with terrain or enemies anyway, and if it detonates in midair, the sticky flames actually dissipate. These are all fair points. Actually, what this actually does, or what this would do, not only would it add cookable fuse, that fuse indicates when it's actually going to detonate, which means if you throw it very early on in the cooking timer, the grenade will actually roll instead of just detonating. Not sure what the actual practical effects of that are, but it means you can roll it. I'm trying to think of scenarios where that is truly useful, and I can't think of many. I guess it would probably increase the amount of enemies you can hit at once with the incendiary grenade. Conversely, you could cook it and have it detonate midair to allow you to hit airborne enemies much more effectively. Although, pardon me, something I looked into before starting recording is the patrol bot's burn temperature compared to the incendiary grenade, how much heat it applies, and that's not something you can really do. You know, you might have hit mid-air patrol bots with an incendiary grenade anyway, and realize that it doesn't burn them. So I guess you would know that. So it wouldn't help if you could do it without having to aim as hard or aim as effectively. So what's the actual use of ignition gate? I don't know. Is there a better clean I could come up with? Probably. But we're sort of stuck with this. And then other turrets aren't really a case. I know you could definitely do sniper turrets with this. Other turrets you already can, because obviously the burst turrets and the repulsion turrets are on the ground. If you simply hit them, the flames will spread onto the ground, and they will actually set them on fire and then insta kill them eventually. Maybe this will be good against flying groups of flying tiny enemies like shredders and shockers. Maybe, I don't know. So it really is a sort of very mild quality of life thing, and I don't think I'm really off base in this. You know, a clean overclock. Obviously, we're dealing with hypothetical grenade overclocks, but a clean overclock can improve something's damage. So we could just up the damage of the fire slightly, but that's not really anything, is it? Although there is a small argument for that, and actually the next two kind of cover that aspect of things. But actually, what I was about to reference is a really specific example, which was that the damage over time of the incendiary grenade can't set a sentinel on fire. Obviously, sentinels only appear in very limited circumstances. And you can set them on fire if you hit them directly with the incendiary grenade anyway. So, yeah, I mean, really basic, just stat boosts are... Well, first of all, they're kind of boring. They're not really what I'm looking into for this series. For the grenade specifically. Some of them have got that, where, in my opinion, it makes a bit more sense because they've got a wider range of more specific base stats to play with, like the shredders. But the incendiary grenade isn't going to be inherently improved. We could increase the radius, but I guess I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But it's also just kind of So what this is, and the reason I'm okay with this is because the incendiary grenade is already a really fantastic grenade. Here at Barrel Vision, we are of the opinion that it's the best gun and grenade. I think. I mean, I think it might be the lead burster, but I'm not the only voice of the channel. Anyway, That's Ignition Gate, a really, really basic clean overclock that is dubiously effective, but I would hope wouldn't make it worse to use, because if it did, then I failed, but if it doesn't, then I've succeeded. Not that I would ever know, because it's never going to be in the game. And neither is this one, Sticky Napalm. Although, actually, there's no although. It's based on sort of sticky flames, though. Flames last longer and slow down enemies. You've got a plus 3 seconds to the flame duration, and a 25% move speed penalty. Should probably be higher than that, because you've got low initial blast damage and a slightly smaller radius. And it's also actually just cheap fire-resistant glue. Is that... What is that? What's wrong with that? I don't need to search, really. What? What's wrong with really cheap? Fucking Ed, what? Fuck you. Anyway, so they last longer, slow enemies down, but we've got some reduced stats overall, or in other areas. Basically, because the Incendiary grenade has quite high burst damage, and we don't want to be relying on that all the time. And I want to sort of be able to create an almost area denial version, make the Incendiary grenade really great in tight quarters. Now it's already really good at sort of dealing with a lot of things over a long period of time, because it does last a while, and fire spreading is also a very effective thing still. That's why, though, I think I would actually up the move speed. I think I'd actually jump all the way to 50, maybe even higher. 25% is not much. I want this to be used. I want this to actually have some use against things that you're not even necessarily looking to set on fire, like bosses, like dreadnoughts, slowing them down. It's the kind of thing that Gunner can't really do all that much. The only way that you can slow down something like a dreadnought is with neurotoxin payload, which, while great, is not actually the ideal weapon, the ideal overclock to deal with an elimination mission. And incendiary grenades is where they lack sort of potent use, is on elimination missions. I would say that's really the only example where they're truly that. This would be useful in any situation where you are dealing with oncoming waves to a fixed position, though, as well. Salvage ops and escort duties, and well, I suppose that's kind of it, isn't it? But any tunnel-based situation as well would absolutely be splendid. It would, if you want to bunker, it would be even better. The incendiary grenade is already good at this kind of thing, but that's the kind of thing that we do with overclocks sometimes, or the kind of thing that the game already does with overclocks. It's take an aspect of the weapon and drive it home, sort of hammer it in, boost it, make it more noticeable, make it more prominent, make it something that you, I don't know, I guess just doubling down on something that's already good at is not an uncommon trend for overclocks, which is why I think this is a good idea. In general, if we were to ever get some kind of system to give us like put upgrades or overclocks on grenades, I know we won't. I still believe in upgrades. Maybe it's like really just like small stuff. I think the kind of, because they said like, oh, we could just make any grenade overclock could probably just be a new grenade, which isn't true. Because this couldn't be a new grenade entirely. It's very, it's like an IFG mixed with incendiary grenade. I think that'll be, and I guess neurotoxin even as well. But I think it would be greatly appreciated. I had a really good point that I just lost completely. Damn. But maybe you can see why a slowdown effect on the incendiary grenade would be just generally appreciated and an attractive pick, because I definitely can. Speaking of things that might have a little bit harder time finding their way into the game, we have Scorched Earth, which does something that nothing else has ever done and probably ever will, which is permanently turning the terrain that it affects into hot rocks, which, yeah, that is insane, by the way. Should it be done? Probably not, but let me explain. So hot rocks is, think magma core terrain. Think the terrain around the meteorites. It inflicts heat. You might know that it insta-kills swarmers, and because it inflicts heat, it's not gonna like set things on fire that quickly, except swarmers, but it'll definitely keep things on fire, and that's the idea here. In fact, this overclock is definitely more so for a build that uses fire rather than for the incendiary grenade itself. It's going to keep things on fire for much, much longer. It's going to keep things on fire that you set on fire through other means, is what I'm getting at. Say you're using Burning Hell or any napalm, is it napalm? Yeah, any napalm build on Hurricane. You're going to see a lot of benefits from Scorched Earth because that's what Hot Rocks do. Hot Rocks also do provide a speed boost to you if you walk on them. And then you realise, hold on, Harry, you're making it permanent. And to that I say, yeah. And the only reason it's even slightly acceptable is because it is still technically a hazard to you. The fact that it's permanent, I can see a really long-lasting version of this still being equally as effective. You probably don't need it to be permanent, but at the same time, it being permanent is just going to create more hazards for you, and that's sort of the trade-off. I actually kind of like that. So obviously, like I talked about, and I've talked about many times before, we're dealing with something extremely hypothetical. So is there any way that the Scorched Earth mechanic could find its way into something else? Either a new item or something that can already have overclocks, like the flamethrower. I don't know if the flamethrower I don't know if it would be appropriate for this. I think I actually sort of conceived it a long time ago and multiple times since of a fireball overclock, which is a very commonly brought up thing. And it does feel like the only reason we don't have a fireball overclock for the flamethrower is because it's a magazine weapon. Simple solution: double tap reload, switches firing modes, or how you produce an alternate effect from a magazine weapon. I think it's very simple. And the fireball overclock for the flamethrower, I imagined it would function pretty much exactly as everyone else expected. It would be an explosive fireball. It would almost be like an incendiary grenade, but for some reason I imagined it turning terrain into hot rocks. That just made sense to me for some reason. That's one possible avenue you could go. In fact, I think it's probably the only one. Satchel charge could also do this as well. I mean, I did have a satchel charge thing where it permanently irradiated terrain, so it's actually a very similar mechanic there. Either way, I do think there's room for the Scorched Earth mechanic. I think the ability to convert terrain into hot rocks, in fact, is what I thought Volatile Impact Reactor would do for the Shard Diffractor. And it is, it's just temporary. Obviously, it doesn't actually convert the terrain, but it's the same idea. It's just not a permanent thing, and it probably shouldn't be, because obviously that magma doesn't actually deal damage, it just sets things on fire. Although hot rocks do deal actual damage. Maybe Volatile Impact Mixture would be... Sorry, Reactor. Maybe it would be better if it did that, but probably doesn't need to be better. It's a really good overclock, so maybe not. Anyway, that's Scorched Earth. I think it's a pretty cool idea. I think you can see that's a pretty cool idea. It's sort of like not inherently going to set things on fire for you, but if you can keep things in it, if you can lead things around and into the hot rocks, it's going to keep them on fire. And that overall is just going to benefit you. And also, those speed boosts should not be ignored. Maybe. I don't know. Either way, I don't think it's actually that bad. And like I explained, I think there's a possible way for it to make its way into the game in some other form, which is a lot of what I'm actually doing with these grenade overclocks that I don't really mind. It's actually just sort of introducing, toying with mechanics that could somehow find their way into the game. There's probably going to be a couple that sort of go down the line of perks even, maybe, or even just base mechanics. That's been a thing already. There's a perk here. I would say a cool passive perk could actually be anything that grants a speed boost is actually enhanced. Although that would be more so just pairing with other perks like Sweet Tooth and Dash and Second Wind. But maybe it would be pretty cool. Yeah, actually, that's it. That's it for the Overclock Workshop. I hope you enjoyed. I'm still doing this because it seems to work out. I have things that I could do. I mean, a big reason why I'm doing it is because I have so much lined up, right? You know, I've got all of these things. Oh, I've done impact taxes. HE's coming up. Incendiary, neurotoxin, Ripper, cryo cannon, cryo grenade, pheromones. I've already made all these. That's why I'm still doing this. But something that I'm definitely going to do, maybe even before I'm done with the grenades, is actually overclock reworks, which is sort of being pushed more so into seeming like a good idea because of all the recent overclock balance changes. Because, you know, they touched things like Snowball and Shield Battery Booster that I thought were already fine. maybe more so shield battery booster, and it sort of makes me think how many things we could easily justify buffing now, like super focus lens for the wave cooker. Make it, I don't know, make it a balance, make it an 80% damage bonus, but maybe give it like a shot width dead penalty or something. You know, all of these different things that could really that could come out of this. I think there's gonna be a lot of good that comes out of this, and I want to see more balance changes like that. Pretty much every experimental until we're done with those kind of changes, until there's no more that need to be made. I'd love to see that. So stay tuned. It's going to be a while, but still stay tuned for some Overclock reworks. That's definitely something I've wanted to do for a while, so it will happen sooner or later. Probably, I wanted to give like a weird time frame. Probably before we get any news on Season 5. Although, and okay, so basically, if you enjoyed, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe. If you want to see more of these, you know what to do. I'm not going to ask you to hit the bell, though. Anyway, something I wanted to look at briefly is, and I think, oh my. Anyway, ignore all that. What I wanted to look at is the sort of the pattern of roadmap releases. The problem with that is, as you might have guessed, is that Season 4 never had its official roadmap actually published, which I still take really big issue with. I don't understand the logic behind that. They just forgot, in my opinion. And it was also a bit of an anomaly in terms of how late it was. But when we look at when these sort of things get updated, you can look at how long before an update releases. So we got November 3rd. And we can see the roadmap came out on June 13th. And obviously June 13th has passed, but that's because Season 4 released at a different time. It actually released after this point. So that's how many months between the two is that? Between Season 3 and its roadmap. That's November 3rd and June 13th, which is... I should not be struggling with this. Actually 5 months. Almost 5 months. Just under 5 months between. It means, based on that, we should hopefully see... we should hopefully see the roadmap right at the beginning of next month. Right at the beginning of July. Like, honestly, next week is when I'd expect it. Because I really do think they should get Season 5 out this year. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot if they didn't. But then we look at Season 2, April 28th. We get our roadmap on June 13th. Difference there is April, May, June. Under 2 months. About a month and a half. Which would actually line up with getting a roadmap more towards the end of July. Basically, what I'm saying is, Ghost Ship needs to sort of step up the communication and sort of making clear how much, when we can really expect things to happen. Which means, based on the trends, if we exclude Season 4, because I do think Season 4 is a bit of an anomaly in this sense, we should be seeing the next roadmap in July. But then we can look to Season 2 and beyond this roadmap, which came out about a month after Season 1. That's an even shorter time period, which was 6 months, though. 5 months. Almost just under 6 months away from the next update. So it's actually pretty consistent. It's like, yeah. So if we don't see the roadmap in July, there's something wrong. Like, seriously. This is the kind of thing that we need to get better at, in my opinion. Get better at just being consistent with this kind of thing. Season 4, it was really the only time they weren't, but that really stung because it was such a long wait as well. And yet they were really hush-hush about when things were happening up until the key art reveal back in May 12th. So, put it on the calendars, expect a roadmap in July, and if that doesn't happen, we need to say something, is what I'm saying. Anyway, that's just some extra rambling. Maybe you enjoyed that, maybe you didn't. Hopefully you agree with me. Cool. Yeah. Take care, guys. See you later.